What's up, guys? Welcome back to Savage Rounds with Xavier. Today for you, we're doing some matchmaking. We had UFC Vegas 81 over the weekend. If you haven't seen my recap of it, go check it out. All the fighters you see on screen are the ones we're making matches for, or we're matchmaking for today. It was a pretty good card, and then this weekend we've got an absolute banger of a card. UFC 294, Volk taking on Islam again. Kamaru Usman, Khamzat Chimaev in the co-main event. That video will be tomorrow. And I'll have the predictions and bets video out, like I said, tomorrow. Let's get into the matchmaking, though, kicking it off with Chris Gutierrez. He gets the win over, I believe it was Alatang Haley. Beat up the leg. It was a guy he should be beating if he wants to be in these rankings. Alatang Haley is good, but I would say if you want to be a contender in these rankings, that's a guy you've got to be able to beat. Chris Gutierrez got it done. This wasn't supposed to be the original match. It was supposed to be Montel Jackson versus Chris Gutierrez. Gutierrez gets the win versus someone outside of the rankings. I think you just remake this. Montel doesn't have a matchup yet, and he really does deserve a fight back in the rankings. He's on a 4-fight win streak. Some good wins in there. I think his most recent one is Ronnie Yaya. I just think this would be a banger fight, and it was already made. So I think we run this one back, or not run it back, but get it remade. Next up, Terrence McKinney, 22nd-ish knockout. I believe it was 20 seconds over Brandon Marotte, newcomer into the UFC. That was also supposed to be somebody different. I can't remember who, but they had no opponent for him for a while, and then they filled it in quite late with Marotte. Regardless, Terrence McKinney I talked about it beforehand and in the recap. Terrence McKinney seems to be the kind of guy who can beat all the guys he's supposed to beat, like the up-and-comers. Maybe not all the up-and-comers. You've seen his skill level. You know when there's a guy he should be. He gets those fights done versus Marotte, versus Mike Breeden. But then he loses to that higher competition, Drew Dober, Bonfim. So it can get tough for him. But he gets the fights that he's supposed to get done. And there's a guy fighting this weekend by the name of Trevor Peek. If he gets the win versus, I believe it's Yaya is his last name, this is just a banger fight. These two dudes are just going to go out there and slug it out. Obviously, McKinney has some good wrestling and submission ability in his back pocket, but Trevor Peek in the early rounds, he seems to be able to get up pretty well and defend takedowns okay. If he does get taken down, like I said, he gets up pretty good early. His gas tank's good early. I won't say his gas tank. His energy's good early. But as he starts to deplete, it's easier to hold him down. I think Trevor Peeks can go out there and try and throw bombs like he does in every fight. And I think Terrence McKinney would oblige, and we'd have first guy to get touched goes down. This is just a fight we all need to see. It was fight of the night type of deal. Obviously, whoever wins would get a performance bonus if it goes how I kind of imagine it would go in my head. But next up, Cameron Simon took on Christian Rodriguez. A very tough outing. Christian Rodriguez missed weight, was 4 pounds overweight, 140 pounds, and you could tell it definitely aided him later in the fight. His cardio held up very well. Not to say that he doesn't have good cardio, but when you're not cutting those extra pounds, it definitely makes a difference. He was able to keep a pretty high pace, wrestle well, and strike well. He got the victory. Christian Rodriguez. For Cameron Simon, he is still super young. I believe he's 22 or 23. He's beaten guys that he should beat, again, but there's no need to throw him to the wolves right now. Obviously, he's very talented, and I think his ceiling, even though Christian Rodriguez got the win this weekend, I believe Cameron Simon has the higher ceiling. No need. Obviously, he lost here, so there's no way to possibly rush him to anything off of a loss, but I think we keep him at about the level he was at before this fight. Let's rack him up a few wins, let him get on a nice win streak, get some experience, and maybe a year and a half down the road, we can start pushing, fighting some better competition. And I think a guy that is around the level of guys he should be fighting right now and is a winnable fight, but also could maybe cause him some problems stylistically, Ricky Tercios. Again, it's a guy I think Cameron Simon should be able to deal with if he's the prospect. I think he is. But Ricky is awkward, an Ultimate Fighter winner, and I think he could put on a good pace, be awkward, and it's just a new look for Cameron Simon to deal with as he continues to improve and get better. So I like that for him, just to kind of get back in the win column if he can get the win over Ricky Tercios. I think that's a solid place to kind of start off your win streak and start to rebuild. Next up, the winner, who I kind of talked about more than Cameron Simon in the beginning, but Christian Rodriguez, very good performance, but like I said, missed weight. Maybe that helped down the road, or maybe that helped later in the rounds. Who knows? Who am I to say? But good performance, wrestled well, struck well, got the win versus a very good prospect. Christian Rodriguez has now beat two good prospects back-to-back, Raul Rosas Jr. and obviously Cameron Simon. I think maybe we take a step up from the prospects now and fight somebody that, not to say the other guys couldn't cause him problems, but there needs to be a step up here, because I don't know, I can't remember I believe he had one win before the Rosas fight, so I believe he's on a 3-fight win streak. I had his topology up, but I don't know why, I can't remember. But a guy coming off of a loss, who's I'm obviously there's not rankings outside the rankings, but who I would guess is above him in the rankings, Cody Stamann. I think this would be an interesting fight. A guy that was fighting at 145 pounds has come down to 135. He's a powerful striker. He wrestles well, and I just think it would be interesting to see how C-Rod deals with those issues. I think he's definitely capable, but it would be a tough fight. Like I said, it's a step up in competition. If he's able to get this win, then we've got somebody on our hands who could possibly, within the next couple fights after this one, look to crack the top 15. And like I said, that would just be a good win for him. And if Cody Stamann's able to get it done, he needs to, from there, would obviously need to rack up a win or two to try and push back towards the rankings, if that's something he can do at this stage in his career. Next up, Andre Petroski. I talked about it in the recap. Probably, and I should have been smarter here too, picking him, but he probably didn't need to take this fight. He was on a 5-fight win streak, or in the UFC, he was 5-0. It's a 5-fight win streak in the UFC. He's on vacation, coming off the couch. He said he had like a 23-pound weight cut, super fast, super short notice. I don't know if he needed to take that fight, but he did. And regardless, he was probably creeping. I won't say he was about to get a ranked fight, but he was creeping up on it. Maybe he needed 1 or 2 more wins. But he loses. I won't say it's a full reset, because he did take it on short notice. That is a tough ask. I don't think his stock will drop too much. But a guy kind of in the relative area to him outside of the rankings, I would say Mikhail Olazashek. He is 3-1 in his last 4. I believe he's won 2 in a row now. If not, it was like 2 wins, a loss, and then a win. He just got a first-round finish over Chidi Njokwani. That's always a decent win. Chidi Njokwani is a tough guy to beat. And these guys are both looking to push for the rankings. I think you match them up, see who gets it done, and the winner can push on. Next up, the winner, the winner against Andre Petroski, Michel Pereira, coming up to 185 pounds. It'll be interesting to see. I assume he's going to stay at 185 pounds. He looked good. He looked huge. And obviously, that weight cut isn't going to be nearly as big of a problem as it is at 170 for him. And beating Andre Petroski, even though he was in the rankings for a bit at 170 pounds, I believe he was 15 for a little bit. I don't think beating Andre Petroski gets you a shot at the rankings right away. You still have to prove yourself at 185 pounds. And I think a guy who's on the come up, 4 wins in a row, all finishes, 4-2 in the UFC, like I said, on a tear, Roman Kopylov. I think whoever wins this could get a shot at the rankings. This would be a big fight. It would be super fun. 2 of the best unranked guys at 185 pounds right now, I'd say, on form. So this would be a sick fight, and I definitely think we'd have a banger on our hands. One of them would probably go out. I think I could definitely see a finish here, and the winner would get to look at the rankings, at least look at a ranked fight to potentially break into the rankings. And that's a good win on either guy's record, to be completely honest. Next up, we've got Adrian Yanez. Tough 2 fights for him. Gets knocked out by Rob Font in a fight a lot of people thought Adrian Yanez was going to win, but there were definitely some people on the Rob Font side. And then he takes I won't say a step back, but he takes kind of I don't even want to say a step down in competition. Jonathan Martinez is a beast, as we've seen, obviously. He's on a sick win streak as well. Takes a step down in the rankings. He fights somebody lower than him now. He's not able to fight up. He gets Jonathan Martinez and gets his leg absolutely kicked off. It was a great performance. I'm a big Jonathan Martinez fan. I've been for a while now. This is kind of Maybe I'm being a little biased because I like the guy. Maybe it's shooting him up too early. But if he can get the win this weekend versus Victor Henry, I would love to see Javid Basharat get a shot at the rankings. Adrian Yanez, 2-fight losing streak. He's ranked 15 now. He's obviously not going to get to fight up, I think, unless it was like two guys in that 10 to 15 range that are on losing streaks. Maybe they do something like that. But I think, in my eyes, I like Javid Basharat. I think he's very talented. Maybe it is a bit too early. Maybe he would still have to rack up a couple wins. Like I said, I could be being a little bit biased just because I like him. But if he's able to go out there, get the win versus Victor Henry, I think this could be a fun fight, an interesting fight, if they're willing to make it this early for Basharat. It would be a great spot for Adrian Yanez to try and get back in the win column. Obviously, it's a tough fight, but if he's able to do it against an undefeated guy, that would be a big step in the right direction to kind of build his win streak back. And then he'd get a win, he'd be 15 still, and he'd get to look back up the rankings possibly, fight somebody coming off of a loss above him. And for Javid Basharat, if he's able to get that done, to break into the rankings after 4 or 5 fights in the UFC, still undefeated, that would be pretty sick. And I think he's talented enough to do it. So it all depends on if he can get the win versus Victor Henry, which I will talk about tomorrow in the prediction video. The winner, like I said, Jonathan Martinez, put on a fantastic performance, kicked Adrian Yanez's leg off. When I broke it down, I said it was going to be at range. Those kicks were going to be very important to the body. I thought it was going to go longer. I was saying he should be investing to the body and the leg to try and slow him down later, but the leg kicks got to him quicker than I imagined. And it's kind of, I believe he jumped up to, did I write it down? I didn't. I believe he jumped up to like 12 or 11. I don't think he's in the top 10. I think it's 11. I don't think he's in the top 10 quite yet, but he's 11. And it's kind of weird. There's not too many. The top of the 135 division is kind of weird because it's Sean O'Malley, obviously, Aljamain Sterling, Merab, and Corey Sandhagen. Merab and Corey Sandhagen, they're not fighting down. These are guys who have been promised title shots and are on pretty solid streaks that have just not gotten the title shot yet. They're probably going to get overlooked for Chito Vera because that's the big money fight. It's the one Sean wants. Henry Cejudo is not going to fight down because he's Henry Cejudo. He's got the little man complex. So I could see them doing Merab, Henry. Who else is there? Chito, obviously at 6. He's going to get to jump the rankings. And then you get into guys like Dominic Cruz, Pedro Munoz, Rob Font. I thought Song Yadong. I thought Rob Font would have been the perfect one, but he's taking on Davison Figueiredo coming up from 125 pounds. Song Yadong, I don't think he should be fighting down, really. And it kind of leaves Pedro Munoz and Dominic Cruz, and those are the two guys. I don't care which one you give him. I know Dominic Cruz said he's not retiring yet. I think he wants to fight next year. So if we can get this made, this would be cool. And then Pedro Munoz coming off of a loss to Chito Vera. It would be interesting. He beat Chris Gutierrez, lost to Chito Vera. Obviously, he's got to look down now, so this fight is an option. I think either one you go with these guys, it's Jonathan Martinez gets to look up into the rankings and potentially jump into that top 10 with a win. Next up, Vivian Araujo. I don't have too much to say about this one just because it's kind of like the top of the division is kind of set. There are some girls that don't have fights, and those are there are girls that have plans for sure that are definitely not fighting down, and then there's some girls kind of floating around. Caitlin Chukagian, Lauren Murphy. I picked one. I went with Lauren Murphy. I think I've matched Chukagian up a couple times, so wanted to switch it up. Like I said, the top's kind of occupied right now, so we're waiting on some stuff to clear up, possible fights to be made, and in the meantime, go with this. Why not? Sadiq Yusuff. He doesn't fight as often as you'd like him to, but when he does, he's always in really good fights, and he's obviously a sick fighter. I think he was probably on his way to a victory against Edson Barboza if he doesn't hurt his shoulder early in that first round after almost killing him. But regardless, Edson goes out there, finishes off the fight. Well, not finishes the fight, but, fights the rest of the fight and does well to get ahead, and almost does finish Sadiq. Regardless, Sadiq is going to be fighting down now somebody in the rankings who hasn't had a ranked fight yet and is looking for one, Lauren Murphy. He's ranked at 14 right now. He is on a 5-fight win streak, undefeated in the UFC. I think he's undefeated in general. His first UFC fight was a draw to Zubaira Tukhugov, but since then he's won 5 straight. After both of their last fights, when I did matchmaking, I did Lerone Murphy versus Nathaniel Wood, and whoever won that would get a rank, but Wood's fighting this weekend. Lerone Murphy's ranked, so I don't know how they picked who was ranked and who isn't, but I guess it would be because Murphy's undefeated. He's on a better win streak, but yeah, I think this would be a sick fight. It kind of just makes sense for where they are. Sadiq's probably like 12 or 13. Like I said, Lerone's 14. I think this is just the next one to make in terms of where they're ranked. Obviously, it'll depend on how long Sadiq's out for, if he is out for an extended period of time, how long Lerone wants to wait, when he's ready, but I think this is the one to make, just rankings-wise, it makes sense. And lastly, the winner of the main event, Edson Barboza. Great performance after that first round to be able to bounce back, even though Sadiq did have that shoulder injury. It is what it is. He did what he needed to do. There's a fight coming up at the end of the year. I don't think at Edson's age, he's probably not looking to turn around fight after fight after fight, especially with the damage he's taking, and he probably needs to fully recover. There's a fight at the end of the year. We let those guys heal up, we let Edson heal up, or we let the winner heal up and Edson heal up, and we make this fight sometime next year, maybe like March. Giga Chikadze taking on Josh Emmett. I think it's December 2nd. It's sometime at the end of the year. So I think, not the winner, actually, the loser of this fight, because the winner will be looking to fight up into the top 5, probably. And the loser will have to fight down. Edson Barboza will be on a 2-fight win streak. It just makes sense. So there's some matchups made. I like a lot of these. Maybe a couple are a little biased with Javid Basharat, who knows, but I do think he gets the win this weekend. I'll break that down deeper tomorrow. Islam Makhachev, Volkanovski 2, Usman Chimaev. That's going to be tomorrow. Predictions and bets. Drop a like on this, subscribe, and I will see you guys tomorrow for UFC 294. Peace.